to a show.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Off the Mats Podcast. And today on the podcast, I want to welcome a guest back. So, way back when I started this podcast back in 2020, I had guests lined up and everything's set in place. I thought I had it. I knew it. And this guest and his wife actually were set to be episode number 4. And episode 1 went perfect, minus the sound. But episode 2, my guest vanished. So my episode 4 guests were gracious enough to step up and be episode 2. Last minute request. And since then they've been there for me many episodes and just in general as friends. But I want to welcome to the podcast my good friend Matt, and I want to have Matt on here because Matt just got promoted to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and really want to have a conversation with him and just find out the ins and outs and talk more about his journey getting there. So Matt, welcome to the podcast, my friend. How you been feeling?
Appreciate that, Dante. Yeah, I'm doing great. It's all a little surreal. Still, it's coming up on a month here. It was mid-December. I was surprised, obviously, showing up. Everyone was like, "Oh, maybe you'll get your black," and you don't want to create that anxiety or let yourself down because that's not the day that it happens. And then I show up and I see some old training people that I haven't seen in years, some who moved away and moved back. And my professor, Myra Maza, was so gracious to call them because she knew that they popped in and out in the past, and she wanted them to be there. And so that was the first inkling, like, oh, I think tonight's the night. And then all the butterflies come, and I wasn't prepared. And when it finally happened, everything was top of my head. I didn't have nothing prepared. It's like when people win an award or something like that. You're like, I wasn't ready for this. Like, I'm just gonna speak from the heart, and that's what I did. Like, to be honest, I don't even remember what I said. There's like certain pinpoints, but in the end, like, it's like one of those journeys that, like, when you started, it wasn't even on your radar. It wasn't something like that was the ambition. You're like, I just want to train and get better. And then as time went by, you're like, okay, this is getting real. And just knowing, like, hindsight, that it's a little over 9 years. You can look back, you're like, wow, like, I stay consistent. And it's pretty awesome to look at that journey in that way.
That's good. And that was one of the things I was wondering about too, because when you first start training, the questions always that I want to ask is like, you know, did you think to yourself at any point in that early portions, like, one day I'm going to be a black belt, or was it just kind of like, I'm training, I'm just kind of in the moment?
It was all moment. We started a small little gym. My wife was doing Muay Thai there, and she just comes to me one day like, hey, I've been watching the jiu-jitsu people. It looks like something I want to try. And I was like, oh, cool. I'll go. I want to make sure the guys are respectful, because I knew jiu-jitsu is very close combat. And I did wrestling in high school, but I really didn't do very much from once I got out of college to starting later in life, starting jiu-jitsu at 37 years old. I wasn't focused on anything like that. I was okay, I'm exercising, but nothing that's like MMA or like combat with people. And so, like, oh, I'm gonna do this. And I got the bug. I got bit by the bug immediately. I was like, oh, this is great. I feel good about this. This is something I want to keep doing. And at the time, I was like, okay, I just want to get better. Make that progression. And It was helping me lose weight, and it was a good outlet. And I was starting to, create bonds and friendships with people a lot of people that I started with, I still have connections with, regardless if I'm training with them or not. But black belt definitely was not on my mind. Even just thinking about, how long it takes to get from there to there. Like, I can't foresee the future. Like, so it was like getting a doctorate degree. And like your first day of taking college, like, oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna become a doctor. Like, no, like you just one day at a time, and you start like creating good habits, and you roll up the punches, the hills and the valleys, and it wasn't until I got to like purple was where I like, okay, I know I started later, but this is a possibility. If I stay on this course and I keep just mat time, like regardless if I'm having an off day or not. And that's where it's like I started working my way, and that's where I was like doing the math. You're like, okay, I always said in my brain at that point, like, hey, if I can get a black belt in 10 years, that'd be amazing. I'm not a young buck. I'm not one of those phenoms who can get a black belt in 5 years just because they're just naturally athletic to that and degree. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna put in the time. I'm gonna gain the knowledge. And to me, like once I got to purple, okay, I've got a few years under my belt. If I keep this up 10 years and be able to do it a little month after 9 years, I thought like that's an amazing accomplishment starting so later in my life.
Yeah, they you always hear about the folks going and getting their black belts so quickly. On average, though, you hear people say, around 10 years, maybe 12 years or so. So it's
Yeah.
like, and you're, just at nine. So, in that calculation, it's like, okay, you beat the average, so,
Exactly.
there's that. At, any point during your journey, did you have like a burnout, where you're just like, ugh, it's like, you're getting those blues or anything where you felt like, I need a break, or, should I keep going type deal?
Not necessarily a burnout, but really like decisions if we were at the right gym. So like our very first gym, our hole in the wall small gym, gave me the necessary foundation. But there was a point right when I got my purple belt, I felt like I was plateauing. There was not a lot of higher belts there. I became one of the higher belts, and it's like it became rinse and repeat. Like it wasn't being challenged, and that's not to say like, oh my god, I'm the best. It's just I know everyone's game at that point, and I'm not. I want to get smashed. Like there's a point where you need to get smashed to learn how to get out of those uncomfortable situations. And if you're not routinely getting that, then you don't feel like you're progressing. And so we had that conversation with our professor at the time, and we were almost ready to leave. And then of course we stayed because of it's like it's a family and all this stuff. And then a few months later, COVID happened. And then COVID was the hitching point where like, okay, 3 months of no training, nothing's open. It doesn't seem like our gym's going to reopen. So we need to. I'm tired of training in my friend's garage. We're not really learning anything. We're just doing the repetition. And so he said, "Oh, there's an Alliance gym, a new one that's opened up, and it was called Eastville, but it was technically Ontario. Like, hey, I went in there, checked it out, talked to the professor. It's really nice. Let's go on this Saturday." I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it." So my wife, myself, and my training partner Frank, we came up together. Like, let's go together. Make this a team effort. And so at that point, I'm like, okay, great. First day, I roll with two black belts. I'm getting my cardio back. I'm feeling like, okay, this is what I needed. I'm being challenged. I'm fighting through adversity, and like that's what I needed. And so that's where when you feel like you're plateauing, like how do I change this? What do I need to change the venue, or do I need to change my game? If I'm always on top, do I need to be on bottom and practice that and try to build those skills up? So that's where in training, like I still wanted to do the same amount of days. I just didn't feel like it was making a difference because it was just going through the motions. But the moment I found a gym that was challenging and there's a lot more variety of people, like, okay, it's making a difference. This repetition is like building up good skills and identify mistakes. Like, oh, I've always done it this way and I got away with it. And now people are catching it. And like, that is exactly what I want because I don't want to build those bad habits. Like all the professors say, like, you don't want to build bad muscle memory, and like finding a place that fosters that was important to me. And that was the evolution. Like I walked in as a fresh purple belt, no stripes, and I worked my way up from purple to black in that environment because I was able to get the skills I needed, but I had to change the venue for me to not stop training because at a certain point, if you're doing the same thing over and over and you'll feel like you're progressing, like it's insanity. Like I'm not getting better.
Yeah, if you're not challenged, there's some folks that like the idea of like, you're the top dog, so you're not going to get challenged. You're going to, smash, 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 but you're not going to get better by smashing.
You're not learning
You round
anything.
out your game, by, like you said, if you're in a bad position, you got to get out of there. You're not going to learn that by being on top all the time. So, it's good that you were aware of that and saw like, look, I'm going to have to change. If I want to get better, I have to, make a change.
It's like anything in life. Like if you feel like you've been doing the same thing over and over and you're not making forward progress, you're like, is it me or is it the environment or the people, the company I keep? Like, what is the hindrance that is preventing me from getting to the next level? And I could have done it earlier, but you stay because of family and that connection. But COVID was one of the like, okay, that was a forcing factor, and that was the key that I could feel like I could do it and not feel like I'm letting people down. And at a certain point, you look at hindsight 2020, this is your journey. Don't feel like you have to stay somewhere or do the same thing over and over because of a commitment to a school or people. If you feel like you're not getting what you need, then you need to like, hey, I want to compete. Well, this school doesn't really help me compete. Then maybe you need to find a school that helps you get prepared for competing. Like whatever it is to help you move forward. Don't just stay because of like, oh, I got to stay with this family and I know all these people, but then you're not improving.
Yeah, comfort is a dangerous drug, because once you feel
Absolutely.
safe, you feel sound, you're like, well, I don't have to go anywhere. And also loyalty, you're like, well, I'm loyal to, this group. And that's all good and well, but if that loyalty is keeping you from growing, you know and
Yeah.
sometimes it's not even a matter of like, you're leaving them because you don't care, you don't like them. It's, again, you have to do what's gonna progress yourself.
It's like a cliche for like relationships. Jiu-jitsu is like an accelerated relationship. You build bonds and connections, and some, are become lifelong friendships, which is amazing. The bonds that develop, but then there's some that like it's out of comfort, and like if you stay in a toxic relationship just because it's comfortable, in the end you're gonna kick yourself that like, why didn't I do this earlier? I feel so much better that I got out of my comfort zone. But sometimes you need to really push the issue instead of just letting it happen in front of you.
Yeah, that builds a lot of resentment, over time too. You're just like, in the little things start to pluck your nerves, like, class might run a little different that day, and you're like, oh, like, why are they doing it this way? This is
Yeah,
dumb. Or,
exactly.
it's just like things that wouldn't bother you before. Now you're just in this toxic environment. Like, that's because, you kept yourself there, and didn't grow. So
Why did why
that's,
did I why did I continue to keep myself in this environment? Why didn't I make a change earlier for the greater good, so to speak?
yeah, yeah. It's like, you know, ultimately you're angry at yourself, and it's just like, spewing out, though, outwardly. So it's good
Exactly.
that you picked up on that, and and built from there, specifically. As far as like your mindset, in training, especially, once you got the brown belts. So I believe, I had you on here, after you got promoted to brown belt as well.
Yeah.
Um, like, going from purple to brown, what was like kind of the big factor there, just like mentally for you, moving up to, to the next rank there, and then, carrying into brown.
It's one of those things when I, was ready for Brown and my professor said, like, I want you to test for Brown. And like, okay, like when your professor tells you you're gonna test, like, don't delay because that's your window. If you wait, then it may not happen. So like, I immediately scheduled it, 2 hour train, 2 hour test, like a lot of butterflies and stuff like that. But I felt confident, and my professor said, like, you're there is no like mystery. Okay, she's like, okay, you earned it. And so the joke was when I got it, like, okay, people who get brown, they're automatically thinking, okay, black's going to be tomorrow. Because like brown is such a huge cornerstone of the journey that you just feel like, okay, it's going to be any day because you don't have to test for black. It's whenever the professor deems that you're ready, whether it's competition or, the leadership on the mat or just, the skills you're showing. So that was always planning in my brain, like, it could be any day. And so like, I couldn't let that like get into my brain. And so every time there was be a promotion cycle during that time, I was brown for 3.5 years. Um, and I always said my favorite belt was purple because purple is where like you start formulating all yours. What's your game? What's on your tool set? Uh, Tweaking all the little things. And my professor out of the gate, she's like, I hated my brown. And both of them, I had two professors, and they both, I hated my brown because they had a bad experience at Brown. And so I kind of thought about that. And it's like, I wanted to have my brown be a good experience. And I wasn't thinking about black. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to get better at a brown, challenge myself. There was another brown belt in the class. So like I made sure I roll with them all the time. Iron sharpens iron. We used to joke around, like just get better, like push each other to the limit. And at the end, we leave everything on the mat and we're exhausted. Like that's exactly what I wanted. So like that's how I looked at my brown. And every time I got a stripe, like I was like really appreciative, and I knew it was part of the journey. But like it's like, okay, don't think you're gonna get black joking around. And so during that time period, it's just brown was one where I just feel like, hey, if I'm gonna get black, this is my time to get my game dialed in. Because if you go to a school in an open mat, like your target. If I go in there as a black belt and I don't know what I'm doing and I don't know the fundamentals, the foundation, it's like my black feels like it's nullified. Like, oh, you're not a black. You just bought that off Amazon, or you just went to a school where it was participation trophy. Like I wanted to make sure my brown experience was like I get my game dialed in, because whenever my black would happen, I feel like I would be ready mentally. Like I've been mentally a black for the last year and a half. I just didn't have it yet. Like I wanted to get in that mind frame. And so I just trained harder and did repetition. I train like 7 times a week, twice a day, two of those days. So like I just wanted to get as much mat time as possible to just, make sure I fix the little details. So when I do get my black, I felt like I earned my black, and I'm, not feel like, oh, like I'm imposter syndrome type of thing.
Yeah, that it's, one of those things that I think it hits at every, rank, at some point, you go up to blue and you feel like, am I ready? And you go up to purple, it's like, am I ready? You go up to
Yeah,
brown, it's like, well, they say I'm
it's
ready,
real.
you know, but we're moving. So,
Exactly.
it's good though, again, to have that presence of mind to, realize, because I think so many people, you know, they're chasing it, just under the idea of like, I want the belt, for the sake of having a belt, but it's like you got to have the skill and the knowledge to go along with the belt. So, you know, fixing those details definitely, you know, puts it all in perspective.
Yeah, and when you're if your whole focus is just the rank itself, you're losing sight of what jiu-jitsu is all about anyway. It's about the way you treat others and on and off the mat. And all the is the skills that translate to every aspect of your life, puzzle solving, etc., being patient, etc., being calm under pressure. Like if you're this focused narrowly on like the actual belt ranking just to say, hey, I'm a purple belt, like you lost the whole reason what jiu-jitsu is about. And the moment you stop thinking about it, and the promotions come along for the ride, you come to the class, you come in with the right mind frame. You have an off day, you have a good day. It's the hills and valleys. You have a day where you don't feel like, oh my, nothing was dialing in today. I couldn't do anything, or I got caught on the bottom. I couldn't get out. Like whatever it be, like you just it's part of the journey. But if your whole thing like, oh God, I'm never gonna get brown belt now because I can't even get out from the bottom, like you're gonna defeat yourself before you have a chance to like flourish. And so everyone who's like, oh, I can't wait to get blue, I'm like, enjoy the journey. It's like I say that all the time, like I it was nice to not have pressure, so to speak. Like when you're a white belt, like you make a mistake, oh, you're a white belt. Keep doing it. As you become purple and brown, you make those simple mistakes. Like no one's gonna point the finger at you, but you're gonna like defeat yourself. You're like, oh my, how did I make that small mistake? I'm a brown belt. I should know better. Like my muscle memory should be. I've done this repetition thousands of times, and it's like the moment you stop thinking about like the end goal and just like, hey, it's gonna happen when it happens, and I'm gonna do what I can to reach that plateau. Then that pressure gets relieved a little, and at that point, you just focus on the task at hand, like what's in front of you for the next 5 minutes, whatever it be. Like, don't think about what's going to happen tomorrow or a month from now.
I think there's also the thing too of people think, oh, I got a black belt, I know it all. I'm at the top of the mountain. It's like you're still learning. Like
Mm-hmm.
jiu-jitsu's always growing and evolving. You know, it's not just like, okay, you're a black belt and you just stop. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's still more
It,
jiu-jitsu to be done.
it's like the whole the line of black belt is just a white belt who kept training.
Hmm.
And my professors say like when she got her black belt, same thing. It's like it just was opportunity to keep learning. And she'll show drills that I've seen thousands of times, but there's little tweaks like, oh my, that's been there the whole time. And because I was so focused on doing it this way and not the other way, like, oh, that is a difference maker. That's an eye opener. And so there's still opportunity to refine my game. And like I can't say, oh, I know everything A to Z, but it's like if you have a good foundation, then at that point everything connects, and then it's like you could tweak things and make them better. And that's where I'm at right now. I'm like, okay, I'm a fresh black belt, but I feel like I have a good foundation, but I still have opportunity for growth. And I'm not gonna say I'm infallible and like in 9 times out of 10, okay, this will work. But that 10th time, what's making that not work? How do I refine this and make this better and make my game a little bit sharper to, reflect the rank, so to speak.
Yeah, that's kind of thinking back to also when you're mentioning muscle memory and just knowing better. It's like there. I have a friend who they're purple or they're blue belt, and everyone was telling her that you know it's crazy that you're not a purple belt yet. You compete well, you train well, and her professor, I think during one of her rounds, she said she like walked into a triangle, like just fell
Arm
into it.
in.
Yeah, and he explained to us like, "There's no way I can promote you,
Wow.
when you're doing that like consistently." So it's like again, that muscle memory, those little details where it's like you have these bad habits. And I have that bad habit because I have
Mhm.
a stubby neck. So in a triangle, it's a little difficult to, choke me. You got to really like, I had one guy,
Yeah,
he
hard.
adjusted 6 times. And finally, it was a matter of like, I knew I wasn't getting out. I wasn't being choked, but I knew I wasn't getting out either. So I was like, okay, I guess I have to tap. But I have that bad habit too of like, it's almost kind of like a reflex now, where it's like I get yelled at for it. And it's like rightfully so. Even though it's like, yeah, I can get out of this, but yeah, you probably shouldn't test that because what if you don't? You know, now you're doing silly things, and not just that, you know, that's just not part of it. Don't have the arm in. an arm
Hmm.
out. It's like either both arms in, both arms out, whatever it may be, but you know how to do jujitsu. And when you're making those silly mistakes, it's like, you know, it's a little hard to justify moving you up to the next rank.
No, that would be painful to hear from your professor because you
Oh yeah.
think you have it and everyone around you thinks you have it. And at that point, you just have to like, okay, what am I doing wrong? Make those adjustments, show the professor that you're making those little tweaks. But yeah, if that's a habit you've created, it's a good thing that you're not going to purple right away. Like use purple as an opportunity, blue to like refine and tweak everything. It's not like we just said, like it's not just about the rank, it's about what comes along for it. And if so, you don't want to be a purple belt who's making, simple mistakes like out of the gate. You want to, you know, if you're gonna get caught, oh wow, he baramboloed me or he did some fancy thing, like he got my hand on the mat and he inverted me. Like, okay, those are things that make sense, but like simple things like arm bars and triangles, like, oh, how do I get out of this? Don't get in the first place.
Yeah.
Like it's completely manageable. So it's like that's an opportunity. Just show the professor that you're not making those mistakes, and then you get progress. But that's a hard lesson to learn to hear it.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, and when they explained the story to me, like I heard, I was like, "Oh, that hurts." And
Painful.
she was like, "You know what? It's she was like, "No, no, I get it. I understand it completely." And it's like, yeah, I understand it too, but that's got to be just hard to hear, like because you know everyone around you is saying these things, but also her professor knows her game. He sees the game every day.
Hmm.
Other folks see things, but they don't see all the things. So, it makes total sense. Where that all stems from, and her response to it as well was just she was like, okay, back to the drawing board. I'm going to hustle, and there she is. So, um,
And
eh,
that's the correct response. If you get freaked out in front of your professor, you're only instilling what the professor just said. If you
mhm,
just take like just like a normal teacher in school, like if they tell you this is what you're doing wrong, refine it. I give you some more chance to redo this test, whatever it be. Like take it to heart and refine it and come back. Don't complain. Don't like throw a little tantrum. Don't like, oh, you're taking my chance away from me, whatever it be. Like, no, take it, treat it like an adult, act like an adult, and just come back stronger.
yeah, absolutely. Um, I was also thinking too, when you mentioned testing for your brown belts. So I'm not. I just had someone actually ask me about that the other day as well. It's like, do you guys test at your gym where I train? They're asking me, and I was like, no, like we test the kids, for like the little ninjas and tiny
Mhm.
ninjas and what have you. But I was then it had me thinking, it was what does that look like? So for you when you're testing, for your brown, you said 2 hour testing, like what all went into that?
Yeah, for testing, professor was just saying this like the last round of promotions. Like some people got invited to do the test. She said if someone gets a promotion without a test, it's because like, oh wow, like they won worlds or something
Yeah.
extraordinary. Like, oh yeah, they're ready. But in typical schools, Alliance especially, you're going to be tested, and there's they get sent the professor gets sent the test, and it's going to be random, but for the most of it's like every position. Like it was basically like 10 submissions from every position almost. Okay, from guard, show me 10 submissions. Like take your time. Like don't get caught up in your brain. Okay, now show me how do you get set up to X guard. How Delhi Hiva, like all these, and just take your time. Don't rush it. And so, it's something you can kind of get flustered, and you're like, okay, I know seven, but I can't think of the last 10. I'm in my head too much. And professor were like, I've seen you do these. You've done these in class, and they by telling you that you wanted you to test, they've seen you do that level already on the mats. And so I heard of people who did terrible during testing and they still got promoted because you get in your head too much, and you just like testing for school, sometimes you do better throughout the year, and that one test you put too much pressure on yourself. And so uh, it's really just, are you able to maneuver through the position, show me your transition from this to this to this, and take your time, there's no rush. And so I had two black belts because I had to do the moves on one, and the other one had to like go through the list and put check marks, so to speak. And there were some things where like I had to think once or twice, and then like say, "Oh, you've done this before. Let me put your hand right here." Like they're kind of quietly nudging because they know you're capable of it. You're just too nervous in the moment. Yeah, it was nerve wracking, because up until then, being at a smaller gym, I would just give him the belts based off performances and competition. Like I went from white to blue because I did, it was like the week after my white belt competition. I was like a three-stripe white belt. Like I got blue right away. Like they made me do king of the mountain. I'm like, why am I being punished, so to speak? And then afterwards, okay, this is my way of like getting to blue. And then from blue to purple was like the same thing. I had a really great competition. I won first place. Like I was everything was dialed in. Like I had the perfect performance, and the week after I was given the purple. And so doing full testing, it was nerve wracking, but I knew like if my professor says that I was ready, that I just had to kind of brainstorm. And I did prep work, kind of like SAT prep work, kind of like tighten up my little game. Like, okay, I don't do this as much, so let me just refamiliarize myself, my options from here. And then once I went in there, like, oh great, I'm glad they asked me that, because that was one thing that I kind of like followed up on. But at the end of the day, it's like if you get too much in your head, just know that your professor has seen you do it on the mats countless times, and they wanted to make sure to dot those i's basically.
Okay. Yeah, that's as I'm hearing that, I'm thinking like, ooh, that's scarier than I thought it would be. Because just
Yeah,
like the ideal of like, you know, 10 submissions from, each position. It's like, but them telling you, take your time and the reassurance there too.
yeah,
Because like you've done it before. It's just like you said, you're in the moment, you're a little nervous, you
exactly.
can't think clear, but that's good to have that reassurance because I think sometimes we beat ourselves up, harder than anyone else could.
Yeah, I've known people who've taken tests for other belts, and they just, it wasn't, they didn't get it right. And sometimes they don't get it, but majority of the time, if the professor seen you do it, they would still get promoted. With the realization like, hey, I'm going to give you this. You did it. Your test, you were just too flustered, but this is opportunity for you to refine yourself and utilize this belt to fix those limitations and get better. So it's not a hard fast rule. It obviously depends on the professor, but it's really a realization of where you stand. And there's some things if you don't do all the time in front of your professor, they want to see, are you able to do that? Because like we've shown it in class before, it may not be part of your game, but you should know how to set up, for reverse delahiva or delahiva, or Barambola may not be you. You're a big dude, and it's not. But do you know how to, at least the technique of doing it? And then once they, those checks boxes, so to speak. And I did it on a Saturday after everyone left. I didn't want to do it in front of anyone. It was just me and the two professors. My wife wasn't there. Like I wanted a low pressure environment where nobody was looking. I want, this is my time to just to do the best I can and put my best foot forward.
Good. Good. Yeah, my coach and I were talking about this a few years back, and when you mentioned the Berimbolo and bigger guys, coach explained that exact thing. He was like, not everybody can do it. We have some folks here who have injuries, neck injuries and stuff. They're just not going to be able to do any kind of inverts. But are you able to explain it? Do you know how it works? Can you show somebody, or can you tell somebody else how to do it? That goes a
Exactly.
long way because at least what it is. You just physically cannot do it. And I
Mhm.
always joke about myself when it comes to inverting of any sort. It's like I can do it but not by choice. If we're in the middle of a roll, it is like I could do a full split, like, but if you tell me right now, Dante, do a split, I can't do a
Mm,
split, but if we're rolling, they, I like my, there's no limit to, the weird things my body does.
yeah. In the
And
moment.
at, yeah, I'm just in the moment. We were working on, uh, you know, inverts, like kind of this like little cartwheel, like from Turtle. And like when you look at it without anyone, on you, just solo drills, like it looks ridiculous. It's like I sent the video to my friend, and they're looking at us like, what the hell are you doing? And the videos went out of order though. So the first video they saw is just me doing this flip, and they're like, what? And then
But
the
you're doing
next
jujitsu.
video,
What are you doing, man? This isn't gymnastics.
yeah, they're like that. None of it makes sense. And then the next video was my coach doing a demo of it, and then the third video was me doing it, doing the roll. And it was like it all makes sense now.
I'll
It
click.
all comes together. Like because I'm sure they're like, yeah, I don't know what kind of jujitsu you guys do in Maryland, but that's that's really weird.
Yeah, it's like there over the last month, my professor was doing it's like capoeira. It's called Jenga. The way you put your foot and your arm like kind of step back. And
Mhm.
if somebody walked in, it totally looks like we're doing we're just doing Zumba. At that point, it's like we were kind of joking around. She would put the music on that was kind of like that. But then all of a sudden you show a drill that utilizes it, like, oh, someone tries to sweep you, and you like put your arm and your leg, and like it's kind of like a pivot, and you come back. Like it all connects in the grand scheme, but small little snippets, you're like, what is this? Like, what's going on? And it's the we joke around, it's like the Mr. Miyagi. You're like, okay, you show me this. How does this apply? I'm not, and all of a sudden, like, show me how it applies. Eye opener. You're like, oh wow, like that makes perfect sense. But but it's that you got to do those drills to build up that muscle memory for when you actually have to do it in the middle of the row. You're like, oh, I see the big picture now.
Yeah, on Friday nights we have no gi class tonight, and it's mostly wrestlers. A lot of high school wrestlers come through and train in that class. And I got in that position, and I was like, oh, here's my moment. I can do this. I'm gonna hit it. And the guy that I was rolling with, he's a big fella. He was a big one, but I still felt confident that I could do it. But I got so ahead of myself. Like I went without like getting my hips high, and I just got flattened out. And I was like, okay. Like first time trying it in a live roll. That's okay though. That's okay. That's in
Okay.
like not a situational, so but the fact that I felt confident enough, like, what,
Yeah.
we've been working on this for 2 weeks. I've done it in situational drills. Here's my moment. Because the old Dante would have been like, nah, this ain't what I do. Like
I'm
I
gonna
do
get
big boy
smashed. This isn't
jiu-jitsu.
worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. But now after getting smashed by him, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get him next week.
Yeah,
Like
it's
I'm
motivation.
not stressed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like when we do those drills, you're like, okay, we can't do it in a live rolling for a week because it's still fresh on everyone's mind. Like, I'm
Mhm.
gonna catch you when you're not thinking about that drill we did 2 weeks ago, unsuspectingly, and then like boom, you're like, I'm gonna hit it. And when you do hit those moves, you're like, you get so excited because like the application is like in full effect. Like you do it through like through situational. Of course, they're letting you do it. Your partner's like a zombie, so to speak. They're resisting a little, but when you do it like with full resistance, like, okay, I see the bigger picture here, and I caught them off guard. And so it's a great feeling when you're able to find those opportunities.
I remember the first time I hit a double leg, like during a live roll. I got so excited that I didn't, secure anything. I got the takedown. I was like, yes, that's never happened before. And then I just got rolled over. I was like, okay, like,
Absolutely. I've talked to people at the gym about that. Like they'll do something and then they'll get 4 steps ahead, like, oh, I got this, and all of a sudden they're too light and they get flipped over. Like it's like you have to, and that's what comes with the time and the repetition and the belts, is basically knowing when to slow it down. My professor will say pit stop, pit stop, pit stop. Like, don't think, oh, I got past the guard, I'm automatically going to go to mount and I'm going to choke them or get an armbar. Like, no, secure the position. That's why they, like, if you're competing, 3 seconds is there for a reason. Like, secure it. Don't think 4 steps ahead because you're not going to even get step one because you're automatically assuming 2 and 3 are just going to be an easy sweep. So it's just that muscle memory that comes over time.
Yeah, the you definitely, have to get a sense of where your body is.
Yeah.
You know, when I was working knee cuts for a long time, I kept doing it kind of off balance, and then start focusing on it, and realizing, okay, this, the more you do it, the more you understand. Okay, I'm a little uneven here. I need to slide
Mm-hmm.
through there. Boom, I'm in side control here, but then I get to side control and then lose it. And it's like, okay, what am I missing here? Oh, I got to block the hip here, and I can start moving. And it's like the more you do it, you start to like add more little pieces, to the foundation, and eventually you have this thing that's your own, so much so, like, it feels good to hear someone say, like, dude, like, you've got that dialed in now. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
reps and mileage, dude, reps and mileage.
And when you're able to get to that level and you show them what you're doing, and you're still able to get it. It's like like you've got that situation dialed in completely. Like Nika is a perfect example. You're gonna get me in guard. If I break your one piece of the guard, I'm going for the knee cut, and I'm going to go slap that leg on the mat hard because I know if I slow it down or I overthink, you're just going to reset the position. And so when you're able to just do it, boom, 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 and they know it's coming, you're still able to get it. You're like, okay, this is on my tool belt. This is something that's like joking around like a WWE. Like this is one of my special moves, so to speak, because you know it's coming, but you can't stop it.
Yeah, there's that magic there when you've got something so dialed in. It doesn't matter if they know it's there. Like,
Exactly.
you're going to get it. And there's just a power to that where it's like you see it, yeah,
Yeah.
but you can't stop it.
Absolutely. And you see the greats in the sport where some of the games are just so you look at it from the outside looking in, like, oh, it's a single leg to a knee slice to side control and a submission. And it's like it's such a simple but it is so dialed in that that's what they're gonna do and they still do it. It's just one of those things that like you built that's why people who compete, we always like build your game plan and just do that over and over and over because you'll get to a point where it's going to be second nature. But yeah, like the the greats of all time, like multiple time world champions, you watch it's like it's very straightforward. There's nothing to it's not YouTube highlight type of stuff. It's like I'll take you down, I'm getting side control, I'm gonna have that side control so tight you're gonna feel that shoulder pressure, and then you're gonna give me my knee slice to a mount, or you're gonna let me get the Americana. Like it's because they've done it thousands of times, and there's no room for ambiguity. It's like it's so tight.
It's like watching Haja Gracie do, the
Perfect.
cross choke.
Great example.
It's just like you see it, and we always joke, like, when you're learning these things as a white belt, it's like, oh, these are white belt fundamentals. These are white belt moves, but you got one of the greats using this to a level that it's there, but you can't stop it.
Absolutely. And that's why we tell professors like sometimes it's good to do fundamental refreshers because the fundamentals is our foundation of everything. Like you can show, butterfly sweeps or whatever, high end positions that you may not necessarily get into on the regular, but the foundation are ways you can get there out the gate every time. Whether you're on the bottom or the top. And if you do that over and over and over, and you get to the point where like it's like you talk about triangle. If you're able to routinely get people in triangles where they can't get out because you just have it down to a science, regardless of the body type, like that's insane. So it's good the foundations is everything. And like Gracie, you just said, like it's looks outside looking in, it looks normal, but
Yeah,
it is years of repetition. It's years of dialing into the T that's his game, and it's a formula that's worked because no one else can break it.
yeah, exactly. Are you still competing, or have you kind of dialed back from that?
I've dialed back from that as I've gotten older, and it's one of those things that like maybe I'll revisit it. Um, you know, competing was it one of my top of minds when I just wanted to learn. I would do competitions in the past because kind of peer pressure, everyone else is doing it. My professor kind of recommended I do it. And at those times I did, the week after, okay, great, you did a good job. You got promoted. Like that was my quote unquote my test, so to speak, go to a competition. But once I got purple, and then like shortly after COVID happened, it just was a top of mind for me. As I've gotten older, it's like, hey, I'm not looking to get injured or anything like that, or for like a dollar piece of plastic or whatever it be. Like some people, they want to do it to challenge themselves, and that's wonderful. It just wasn't top of mind for me, and there might be a point where as I get older, I like, okay, as I go up in master numbers, trying to figure out like, is it worth it? And do I want to go through this now that I'm black? Like, okay, I feel like I'm resetting. Like at Brown, like Brown was a time for me to do it because, like, okay, I was Brown for a few years, I'm seasoned. Once I go black, like I could be going and get someone who's been black for 10 years at this point. Like, yeah, it's just like it feels like it's a mental mind shift. But to me, it wasn't top of mind. And I help, people get ready for training. Like we grind hard, and I'll run through the into the trenches with them. It just going through the actual tournament stuff like that. It just really is a top of mind for me. And I know they joke around. There's hobbyists and there are competition people, and I would just consider myself a hobbyist. But maybe who knows in the future what the future holds.
Well, it's nice to be in an academy that doesn't.
Yeah, like as a hobbyist myself, I always look at that too. It's like there's always the ideal of competing. It's there,
Yeah.
but
You only
it's
have
like,
there's all these new leagues like after
mhm,
COVID, junior, World League popped up and they're going rampant. To me, it was always in the past, like NABJJF and IBJJF. They were the games in town, and now, or Naga if you want to go crazy. But in a World League is like, it feels like it's stepping stones. If you're ready
mhm.
for IBJJF, like you have opportunities to get those repetitions, and it just, to me, it just wasn't top of my list. And I'm at an academy where it's not a big focus. I know there's some academies like they want to get as much people as possible, but I just didn't feel like going through going through that and getting hurt, because competition classes are different than normal drilling classes. Like there's opportunity for injury, or I can rip something, and unless you're in that mindset, you can get hurt.
Yeah, we have a lot of young folks on
That's the
on the
difference.
competition team,
Yeah,
and when I see those kids out there training, and then I think about it, and I'm like, okay, so here's the thing, and a lot of them are so dialed in. They're like they're focused. Like I'm a goofy guy. I like to make jokes. I like to be silly. I laugh on the mats, and I don't see them even make any kind of facial expression. I'm just like, you know what? Maybe this isn't the room I want to be in today. Maybe I'm just
yeah,
gonna go back to that mixed levels class and
yeah.
crack some jokes while I'm stuck in a triangle.
Yeah, you when you go to those classes, and you go get someone and they're like slapping their legs and they're slapping their chest, like, okay, like this not a normal role, like this is a life or death situation role. I better be ready. I better, if he the moment someone grabs your if you're doing gi and you feel that, like that strength, like, okay, we're not just flow rolling, we're in a mental tournament at this point. And so you have to be ready. And like, to me, starting so later, starting in my late 30s, I just wasn't in that mind frame. And if I started in my 20s, I probably would be jumping on the train with the rest of them, because I was a very competitive, person, when it came to sports in the past. And to me, it was like I just wanted to learn and have that mindset of learning. But competition is your chance to, like, hey, if I everything I'm learning, is it real? Am I just not doing this over and over because people that I know their game? Like learning someone from going with someone for the first time, am I ready for that next level, so to speak?
Yeah, whenever you know I do class, I tend to go to like the more casual classes, and once in a while, I might stumble into one of the more serious competition classes, and I'm just like, it's like you'll see, they're slapping themselves and getting prepped, and again, I'm a silly guy, so I'll make a joke in that moment, like, wow, you're
Try to break
committed.
break the break the craziness in the room, cut the tension with a
Yeah,
knife.
yeah. Most of them don't fall for it. I'm just like, oh boy.
Okay, well let's do this. Yeah, it's like, and you can go to those classes like, I didn't eat well today, like
Yeah,
I didn't get enough sleep, whatever it be. Like there could be like you're off, and you're gonna feel it if you're in one of those hardcore classes.
yeah. And we got quite a few guys that have judo in their pocket too. So
Oh,
it's like like
it was like all of a
man,
sudden my legs are in the air.
yeah.
How did that happen? I wasn't even. We barely touched geese, and I'm already doing a flip.
There was a guy years ago. He was well. I'm certain he was a wrestler because we were, the way we were like kind of battling. Okay, this was a wrestler, and
Yeah.
nope. Some judo came out of pocket. He hit me with the earth, and like my coach thought I was dead. like,
It's
like
just
I
like,
was fine.
"Ugh."
Yeah, like my feet went in the air, and it came at me fast. I hit the ground, and you just hear
Mhm.
this loud thud, and you could hear the wind just leave my body. I was fine, and in those moments I laugh, but I think that's just fear. It's like I'm
Yeah,
scared, so
that,
I'm gonna
that's your
laugh
yeah.
at this.
That's the way you combat it. That's your combat. How you deal with it.
But afterward, I thought about that real heavy. I was like, okay, it's like I'm not typically a guard puller, but maybe that's the moment that I should probably just sit down.
It's like one of those things like in no gi class you talk about wrestlers. Okay, I guess I'm pulling guard because unless you feel like your takedown game is where it's at, I gotta I gotta change the position to nullify the wrestling advantage, so to speak. Oh, this guy knows.
Yeah,
If you knew the guy knew judo, you're like, okay, why am I tying up with him? Like maybe I need
yeah,
to keep my distance, but it's one of those you drive home with the music off in the car, kind
hmm
of thinking about going through it over and over. But it's that learning opportunity. Like I said, the hills and the valleys, and like, okay, I know I can't judge a book by its cover, or I got to make sure that I have my feet appropriately and don't put my feet together. It's a simple mistake,
yeah,
but it's it's fun after the fact, but in the moment you're like, wow, if that was on video, I'm embarrassed.
yeah. Well, I've been recording all my rounds lately, so it's that wasn't one of them. That was years ago, but I
Delete.
like to go back and look at those though because at least, yeah, I delete them after I kind of get what I need out of it. But
Yeah,
I don't need to be
internalize as much
reminded.
as possible. Like I want to get rid of this evidence.
One of our guys last week, normally he has a very slick ankle pick, and he has some good throws and what have you, but he hit me with a blast double, and he's never done that. And as he's in the middle of it, I could have still sprawled, but I was in such shock. I was like, you know what? Just go with it now at this point because I don't even know. It like is up down now. I don't know. Like
I'm
everything's
inverted.
changed.
The yin and
You know,
yang is in full effect here.
and he even said it too. He was like, "Yeah, I figured I'd throw something different at you today." I was like, "Yeah, I mean, you definitely got me off guard because, you know, I'm sitting there, I'm keeping him at bay, and I was actually considering shooting for a double leg. I'm looking, I was like, okay,
It's
I
my
think I might
chance.
got him today, and just boom, right up the middle, and I was like, okay, too much thinking. I should have just reacted.
I hesitated. Yeah, and that's the thing I would always tell people like don't choreograph, don't overthink it. Just go. Who cares? If it doesn't work, who cares? You
Yeah,
just work from whatever position you end up in. We're not keeping score. This isn't the world, in the world tournament. Like this is your opportunity to get better. So if you think twice, that moment's passed you by. So just go with your gut instinct. Okay, I got this grip. I have to go for it. The moment oh, I have a chance for this, it's gone because you just talked about it. So
So,
mhm,
just uh, go with the flow. If you had an off day, figure out what went wrong, how to refine it. And no one's keeping score. No one's coming back. Hey, remember I caught you yesterday? No one's like that. No one's gonna be, hey, I tapped you yesterday. Remember that? No one's gonna be like that. You like just leave it all on the mat. Who cares what happens? Just enjoy the journey.
Yeah, that's the beauty of the training room. It's you're experimenting. Yeah, if you mess up, you mess up. That
This is your
that's how,
chance.
that's how you learn. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Just so
Um,
next time, if someone catches you with the blast double, okay, if I can't sprawl, can I grab his belt and like try to use the momentum? Like, how do I refine that? So that you build those muscle memories, how to react better, opposed to like, whoa, what's happening? And by then it's the ship has sailed.
yeah, like it's weird because it's like again with takedowns, I'm pretty good at defending them. It just came out of nowhere though, and I was like, especially from him. That's why I'm like, okay, now I know. Now, okay,
there's
I see
more.
him
There's
now.
more
So
that it's no longer just ankle picks to contend with anymore.
yeah. So Matt, before we wrap up, I want to play a game. I'm gonna play a game of Would You Rather. Um, because I've been trying to bring it back, and I always forget because the conversations start flowing. I'm like, okay, we rocking and
Exactly.
rolling. All right, let's wrap up. Oh snap! I forgot the Would You Rather. It's usually Would You Rather or Rapid Fire. Right now, I got in front of me Would You Rather. So we're gonna go that route
Okay.
because that's all I got in front of me. So
Good.
I'm gonna give you 5 of them, and then uh, we'll wrap up from there. All right. So the first one that I'm going to ask you is: would you rather have the perfect guard that nobody can pass, or would you rather have perfect top control that nobody can sweep you?
Perfect top control that no one can sweep me.
All right. All right. Next one, number 2. Because I have to say that out loud. Because if I don't say number 2, I'll end up giving you like 8
Never won
points.
again.
Yeah, my daughter has to remind
Okay,
me.
now the
Yeah,
answer is different.
you said number 3 4 times already.
Exactly.
All right. So this is in the competition world. All right. Would you rather compete only in gi for the rest of your life or only in no gi?
I'll have to go with my forte. I like gi.
We share that in common.
Yes. I can appreciate no gi. And I have enjoyed no gi classes, and it's obviously more realistic of the day to day life. But I like the gi game. I like
I
uh I like be able to lapels and be able to manipulate utilizing those grips.
I had a young lady ask me that today on her podcast, and I said gi because I'm older and I could slow the game down. Like no gi, that's a scramble, and I ain't got energy
Uh,
for a scramble. I got 17 seconds tops for a
yeah,
scramble, and then I'm taking a nap. But in no gi, if I get or in gi, if I get a lapel,
so
I
that's
got
fine.
I got something now.
Yeah, we always say people do no gi. It's like there's less room for error. You make an error in no gi, you're going for the ride. No gi, you make an error, grab whatever you can.
Yes, that's I know that too well. All right, this one is in teaching and like kind of coaching in that department. Would you rather be known for creating a revolutionary new technique or for being the best at an existing technique that's already there?
The best at an existing technique is already there. I'm I'm at this point in the game. I think everything's been done many times. People can refine things and call it whatever name they want. I feel like the writings on the wall with all of the lineage that's already out there, and so utilizing that and really just dialing it in to the point like we talked about earlier. Like if you go for this technique and no one can stop it, like that's powerful. I'm not looking for YouTube highlights. I'm just looking to have like a solid foundation where like yeah, like this is part of my repertoire and good luck if I get in this position because I'm going for it.
Yeah, there's currency in being able to just have that move that can't be stopped.
Currency is the word, yeah. It's like pull out your back pocket when you need it. Like okay, we're locked head to head like two rhinos. all of a sudden you gave me that opening and I found my opportunity. Boom. I'm pulling the trigger to one up you.
All right. Next one. Would you rather roll with people who are way stronger than you or way faster than you?
I would say faster. Um, you know, from experience coming up, when you go get someone strong, like, obviously you feel like you're going against a rock, but there's opportunity there to counter it. But someone's faster, you don't have a chance to establish a game if they're automatic, like especially if they have a good guard game and they're just every time you do it, they're already 3 steps ahead of you. I feel like that there's more opportunity to learn when someone is changing the game up faster and you're having to pivot opposed to just locking head to head with someone who's strong. And at that point, you're just trying to find like an angle. Whereas, if someone has really good technique and they're just so fast that they keep resetting it, you learn more from that role than just going slobber knocker with someone.
Yeah. I would always think about, especially in the gi, it's like you could be faster than me all you want, but again, I can slow this
Grip.
down.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like,
But
but
the thing is, like, they can be fast, but then you think you have a chance, and then they reset real quick at a pivot.
mhm.
And so, and then us being older guys, you're like, I'm giving up a lot of years majority of the time, and I've heard like the math, like every 10 years equals a belt, so to speak.
Yeah,
And so if I'm in my late 40s, I'm going to get someone 20, like, okay, I'm a higher rank, but they got that faster agility and all that stuff. And so that's where my technique and, my extra years of experience, I gotta pull that out and, take advantage of that because some young buck coming off the street, this could steamroll me because he's so much faster than me. Like I gotta slow it down, like you said, and I gotta make it my game opposed to your game.
yep. And then the very last one here. Would you rather train jiu-jitsu with 10-year-olds at 100% intensity, or would you rather spar against a professional MMA heavyweight at 50%?
I would say professional MMA at 50%. Uh, because I was talking about earlier, it's like, the technique being there. If someone has a technique already, then that makes your game better, rather than like someone going full bore, but then I know I can overpower them because they don't have the same level of technique. So I much rather learn from adversity and make it a challenge than this, like, okay, I'm just going to be judo tripping a bunch of 10-year-olds. I don't, oh, you're a green belt, whatever, get out of here.
Well, also, too, them going full clip, there's a lot of room for injury there versus
Yeah.
like,
I'm not
you're
looking to
going
prove
against
anything.
a professional fighter, going at 50%, you're going to be able to learn a lot more versus going against those kids,
Exactly.
where, you end up, flatlining them real quick. But now it's like, oh, great. Now his shoulder's out of place. Like,
I feel like crap. It's like, okay, I go gets 50%. Neither one of us are like really going balls to the wall, but I'm learning something. Whereas like dislocate a shoulder from a young kid, I'm gonna feel like crap,
yeah.
and then I'm gonna look like a bully.
Yeah.
It's like, okay,
And
you're that black belt who picks on young kids. Oh, okay,
yeah, how the internet's going to react to that. Immediately, there's going to be posts
exactly.
everywhere.
Oh look,
I'm
yeah,
like, look at
look,
this
look, look.
jerk.
Yeah, look at this jerk just picking on people, and I was like, he doesn't know what jiu-jitsu is about.
It's like, well, I know enough to know how to beat up a 10-year-old. Like, yeah, yeah, well, so does
A lot
everybody
of
else.
people off the street are the same way. There's no technique there. It's like I don't know if you ever watched Seinfeld back in the day. There,
Oh,
Kramer
yeah,
was
yeah.
taking karate and he was taking it like it turned out he was teaching doing a bunch of kids. And he's beating the crap out of the kids, and they're like, "Really? Like you're talking this big game? You're just beating up a bunch of little kids?" And he thought he was high and mighty, and then finally they caught him in the back alley and they beat the crap out of him. 10 against one. But he basically was coming back like, I'm really good at karate. I'm the best in the class. And then like a bunch of 10-year-olds. That doesn't mean anything.
I think that's what kept my buddy initially from trying, wanted to try jujitsu. Is it was probably that episode of Seinfeld or Fresh Prince. I think they did something similar on Fresh Prince as well, where he's taking karate and there's a bunch, he's in the kids class and he was like, I don't want to have to take, I'll be in a class with a bunch of kids, and I don't want to have to do it. It's like, dude, I train, and I'm not in a room with a bunch of kids. They're like, trust me, just trust me on this.
No,
And
they're not
I
gonna
mean,
they're not gonna put you that. Even like my nephew is 15, so he can technically be in the teens class. He's training now, but the kid is like 200 pounds. Like, yeah, he weighs double the weight of these kids. He has to go to the adult class. It has nothing to do with
yeah,
age at that point. It's not fair at that point.
yeah, it's like, there's common sense to it all. So it's not like they're gonna like,
Absolutely.
okay, you have to go, grapple with this 7-year-old now. It's like we're not even remotely close to the same size. I have an
Like, I
8-year-old
feel
at
like
home
I'm gonna be the
who I
bully.
can't
No
really.
matter what I do, if that kid gets hurt, it's all gonna be on me. And then if I go like 10%, then at that point he if he does anything on you, then you look bad. You're like, oh, he
Mhm.
swept you. Like, it's a no-win situation.
Yeah, yeah. It's like the pro fighter for the win.
Exactly.
Like, all right, well, Matt, this has been awesome, dude. Thank you for doing this, and sharing your insight, and just your journey, coming up to black belt. I say coming up to black belt as if I'm there. uh
No, you're on the path. That's all that matters. It's like your journey and my journey are different, just like everyone like I train with. Like, you can't compare yourself to other people, but just keep doing the repetition you're doing. You're on the right path and the right frame of mind, and it's just as long as you stay consistent. That's all. It's all consistency. That's all it is.
Absolutely. And that's the word of the year for me, on the mats, and just with everything is staying consistent. So, thank you for, those beats, and spending this time with me, because like I say, anybody that sits down and does an episode with me, I will always be forever grateful because you're sharing your time. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. Before we get out of here, you got any shout outs or mentions you want to leave the crowd with?
Just the support of my wife. Angelina. She's definitely been the cornerstone and understanding when I'm away from home a lot, training, and no issues there. One of the a partner who doesn't complain that I'm away. Oh, why are you gone so long? Like, yeah, she knows I'm doing something for better enablement. And then my Professor Myra Maza. And my school, Alliance Upland. She's been the difference maker on my journey. Getting my black belt from her what meant a lot to me. I really feel proud that I'm her first black belt that she's been able to promote. And so all my other students at Alliance Upland, it's like most of them I've been training with for years. And we were in Alliance Eastville in the past, and then a lot of changes happened there, but we all stayed the course. And so appreciate all of them for their support and pushing me.
Awesome. I'll make sure to tag
Yeah, Angelina's. I
Alliance.
don't need to spell it out. Hers a
Yeah.
little bit more complex, but Alliance Upland, um,
Yep.
and then Myra Maza. But you should be able to see the details there.
Actually, I do remember after Angelina messaged me that you gotten your black belt, and then later on that day, I'm going through the Instagram stories, and then I saw that in the stories. I was like, I know him. Oh, wait. Like
It's
I know
one and the same.
I've already been aware of it. Uh, So thank you for that.
Thank
And
you.
as always, to the listeners, thank you. If you have any questions, concerns, criticisms, anything, feel free to reach out. You can find me at bjj.wiki on Instagram, or Off the Mask Podcast, also on Instagram. I want to give a quick shout out to my crew over there at Nerve Age Radio. I'm not going to go through the names because we're trying to get through this quick, but y'all know who they are. We love those guys. It's because of them I'm doing the podcast, and also shout out to my other podcast. So if you like horror, if you like scary movies, go check it out. It's on Instagram, all the words separated by underscores. So you like horror. And last but not least, big thank you to my guest here and new black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Mr. Matt. Thank you for doing this. And thank you just again for sharing your journey and your knowledge. As always, to y'all listening out there, you know what it is. We love you guys. Thank you. You know what it is. You guys keep listening. And we're going to definitely keep making these shows. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
deeper with it. Now let me sing a song.